Most men don't lose their masculinity after divorce. They just rebuild it wrong. They grind, they date, they lift, they hustle. But underneath it all, they still feel small, reactive, or numb. I'm Dr. Eric Eck. I'm a men's mental health physician, licensed in 14 states. And I help men rebuild their power and identity after collapse. Not with therapy, but with frameworks that rewire clarity and presence. Today, I'm going to show you the 3 traps most men fall into when trying to reclaim their masculinity, and why doing more might be what's keeping you weak. Jeff went all in. New gym routine, promotion, side hustle, no rest days. His calendar became his identity. From the outside, he looked disciplined, but inside, he was tired, reactive, and short-fused. Because Jeff wasn't rebuilding. He was avoiding. He mistook output for healing. And eventually, it broke him. Working harder to avoid feeling weaker is still weakness. Real masculinity isn't about productivity. It's about presence. It's the ability to sit with discomfort without sprinting from it. Jeff realized he had become addicted to being busy because silence reminded him of how empty he still felt. After divorce, many men stop chasing one woman and start chasing all women. Not sexually necessarily, but energetically. They need attention, respect, praise. The "you're such a good guy" feedback. And suddenly, masculinity becomes another performance. Look how healed I am. Look how much I've grown. But praise isn't power. And chasing female approval in the name of confidence is just dependence in disguise. Masculinity isn't proven through praise. It's forged through presence. These men aren't chasing love. They're chasing redemption. They're trying to be seen as the good guy their ex didn't recognize. And it keeps them stuck in her frame. One man told me, every time I get a compliment from a new woman, I felt like I was finally undoing what my ex thought of me. That wasn't healing. It was a performance rooted in pain. You don't need worship. You need to stop disappearing from yourself. Some men go stoic, rigid, perfect routines, clean meals, monk mode. Everything is tracked, optimized, controlled. But what they call discipline is actually fear. Fear of chaos. Fear of emotion. Fear of being vulnerable again. If I control everything, nothing can hurt me. But here's the truth. You can't out-control your fear. And when your power depends on your environment being perfect, you're not strong. You're just safe. Control is fear with a calendar. Kevin had to admit, control was his safe space. But it became a prison. The moment his schedule got disrupted, his entire sense of self collapsed. Real masculinity is flexible, present, responsive. Power doesn't need a tight grip. It needs a steady hand. All three traps are performance-based masculinity. And performance masculinity is fragile because it only works if the world agrees with your image. Real power doesn't need validation. It doesn't need control. It doesn't need worship. It sits, it sees, it responds. It can pause when triggered. Speak with clarity. Lead without proving. Masculinity isn't what you show. It's what you can hold. Presence means you don't have to react to every threat. You know your values. You trust your decisions. And you don't need everyone to understand them. When you rebuild presence, ego, everything changes. You stop chasing and start creating. Kevin looked like a leader, disciplined, respected, even admired. But inside, he was burned out, always on. No room to rest, feel, or breathe. Until one day, his son asked him something simple. "Dad, are you mad at me? Or just busy?" That broke him because Kevin realized he wasn't rebuilding for himself. He was rebuilding to be seen. He was still performing. just in a new costume. He had swapped emotional dependence for performance addiction. He didn't need to be more alpha. He needed to be more honest. And once he started showing up without the mask, he stopped losing energy and started gaining power. You don't need to be admired. You need to be real. When Kevin learned to pause instead of posture, his whole presence changed. His son stopped walking on eggshells, and his team respected him more, not less. You can't rebuild masculinity through force. You rebuild it through clarity. Through being a man you trust, even when no one's watching. If your masculinity needs to be performed, it's not yours yet. You'll know you're rebuilding the right way when you feel grounded in silence. Respond instead of react. Know who you are without anyone watching. And when that happens, you'll realize power was never about being hard. It was about being whole. Masculinity isn't a mask. It's an anchor.